Jason is here.
Hi, I'm Jason Ward from MakingStarWars.net, and you're watching the most demonetized channel on YouTube.
So they demonetized the audio on that song before the show even plays, Jason, so you can't hear it. You know?
Last night, I was a good boy. I did a right after it aired episode with Bespin, and I don't think I even said a bad word. And wake up today, demonetized.
You didn't. I listened to the whole thing.
Yeah, I was pretty proud of myself, for the most part.
Yeah, I think
if I did, it was real late in. If I didn't slip up, it was real late in. And
you're unhappy with the felonious jokes and
I don't know
your car parking. You haven't even done any like exclusive snaps since Bespin, right? Like was in on the Acolyte stuff,
and
right? You haven't even been like trouble for them.
I think YouTube is just a big grift where they just are like, hey, let's just demonetize everybody and not pay them during the key moments of the show's release. So anyways, thanks to everyone who's a channel member and who supports the show, because YouTube are crooks. That's just what it is. They're crooks. They want the content, but they don't want to pay for it. So it's what it is. But so this week has been funny. If you didn't see last night's episode, was last week I didn't do a show because me and Rob were going to do one. I was just like, I can't be bothered to talk about this. The difference between myself and one half of the internet is that if I don't like something, I just let it die and I move on with my life. I just don't care about it anymore. And I go on to something that I enjoy because it's just too depressing to live in the death of a fandom from your perspective.
That's how I felt during the Clone Wars cartoon, Jason. Now you understand.
Yeah. So that's why. But you're living in it again. See, no, I'm kidding. I'm joking.
Well, I'm a scar. It's like no, Jason. It's different. It's like the first time you get divorced. You ever think you're gonna be hurt that bad again? No. You know, like it's scarred you enough. But there's a certain thing they can't get to.
With the Clone Wars, though, you were like, oh, I saw a bad movie, and then I didn't watch any of it.
No, I saw my entire life. Jason, you don't know how into Star Wars I was. All right, you just don't understand. So
no,
I could kind of prove it. Yesterday in the comments in your show, Junior Jangles put a comment. Oh, so Jason,
love the Jangles.
Let's see some scripts you've written, you know? So I was like, well, I agree with pretty much everything Jason said. And here's the script I wrote in 1998 when I was 19. And it's about as good as anything on Disney Plus. You know what I mean? Making all the same mistakes, you know? So it's like, this is my problem. When I see what I wrote as a 19-year-old end up in a show, I'm like, what's their excuse? You know, like what is the problem? You know, like I expect a little more, but all right. So he said, he appreciate. He's going to read it. I'm curious.
Well, anyways,
Junior Jangles feedback.
Point was I was like, I'm not interested, and then I was like, oh, so Rob watched the previous 2 episodes for last week, and then and we're like, we didn't do it, yeah, and then
back to back.
And then last night's episode comes on, and I'm like, oh, this is really good. Bespin's like, we got to do a show right now, and I was like, all right. And I was like, I knew you hadn't watched it yet, so I was like, ah. So I was like, okay, I'll just do 2 shows if he wants to. So yeah, so I watched it again. I gave it a second watch, and it was interesting for me on the second watch because the first watch I didn't trust the show. On the first watch, I kept expecting like all of a sudden like Chimera was gonna like be like, actually, I'm not the Sith master, I'm just an actor. And I want to go to Coruscant and make it big. Like, you don't know what's going to happen with the show. It's so dumb sometimes. But on my second viewing, I actually trusted it. I was able to enjoy it a lot more than my first viewing of the episode. And I am like of the opinion, James came on the show last night and he was like, hey, why didn't they just open with this? Since they're telling the whole thing out of order anyway. And I was like, as a movie, I totally agree with that's how it should. If it was a movie, they should have done it that way. But at the same time, it's unfortunate it takes 5 episodes because I think for a lot of people, 4 episodes in and you're just like checking your watch the whole time, and then something cool happens in the 5th one. I'm like, I don't really fault anybody for being like, nah, I don't want to watch 4 episodes of like just drivel to get to the good stuff. I won't blame anybody for being in that point. That said, I did, and I think I was rewarded for it because I think the episode last night has me in my head. Here's my New Hope, Rob. And you can tell me what you think. Here's my New Hope, okay?
Okay, all right.
Princess Leia, she's always about hope. So that's why I do that now, because I like Princess Leia.
Hope and running.
Hope and yeah. Yeah, no, I'm hoping that this is a show where we go, oh yeah, you want to watch 5, 6, 7, and 8. Like when you go back to like rewatch it like in a year or two, you're like, oh, you know what? I'll watch 5, 6, 7, and 8, and then the whole thing's good. I'm hoping that I'm hoping it's like we could piecemeal it
Fan
apart.
edit syndrome, right? Where you're like, I could just carve out this chunk and it will work because Star Wars with you just have a crawl. But this is my point with Star Wars, and I've been saying this, I think since day one I came on the show, is Star Wars has something no other series really can get away with, and it's an opening crawl. Like you put a block of text in front of Superman Returns, and they did. It's ridiculous. You're like, I don't want to read a block of text before Superman starts to figure out the premise of this friggin' movie, right?
Yeah.
And you're like, but Star Wars, you can literally start it anywhere and just put a crawl that says the Jedi, blah, 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 blah. They dispatched, but something sinister awaits, and you're just like, excellent, like it's quite genius. The downside is when you're like, do they know that? Like, are they aware that they can do these things? Like when they got rid of the opening crawl, I didn't need the opening crawl for Rogue One, but it did confuse some folks in the movie theater for a bit. Like it's so much so that they went and added like at least some text to Solo, which probably didn't even need it really. But it's just odd. But yeah, you're right. You could add some crawl to this, start it here, but you're assuming, Jason, that like my problem isn't what will happen. Will someone do this? Will they reveal this stuff at the end? Will it pay off? The problem I have is, do I care? Like, do I care about, I care about Saul because that actor, not the script, the actors made him super likable. Like he just has a natural charisma to him. But, and I don't mean to be mean to the lead actress. All right. Like she's just as unlikable as Natalie Portman or Hayden Christensen to me. Like it's just wooden, stiff, very similar. It's like, who's the kid that Daniel Logan without the passion? Like Daniel Logan at least went fire. Like he was like little bastard,
Boy, get him.
It was corny. Now I wasn't in the theater going like,
he's
brilliant,
excellent,
but
he was
but it was
excellent.
like,
yeah.
But at least he's like feeding in.
He has spunk.
But right. And it's like at least Tamura Morrison could give a little bit of a smile to Obi-Wan when he goes, he's saying I'm making my way through the universe, and it's not read in a believable way. And I don't even know if that's the thing a character would say in that moment, but cool line. And, he's at least giving you a little bit of the little John Wayne wink or whatever, a little wink to the camera. She's just, I'm just like, it's like, how do I say this? It's like if you just read it as plainly as could be and never blinked your eyes and stared at the camera. And it's just tough for me to like care, that's what's kind of hard with the show. And I get like, I was having this conversation with Bespin before you jumped in on Fortnite. It's not a secret one, but I was just like, there are some people who just want to love it because maybe they're hitting later in life and you're not, the odds of you getting really great Star Wars are minimal. So your expectations come down and then you're like, now I like it. I just want to like something. It's exhausting being frustrated with something. It's exhausting. And so I get, if you just, I just want to sit down and just watch some fun stuff. I don't care. I get you. That's how I felt around Flash season 3 and 4, and then I just quit. I was like, actually, I don't care. I'm moving on. Like there is a tolerance threshold, right? And I think what helps this series, particularly this episode, is it's very hard when you have good choreography to screw up a lightsaber or anything. How many YouTube channels for the last decade are unwatchable when they act, but great lightsaber fights, right? Like you can tell, like they could do a lightsaber. Why doesn't anyone look at these lightsaber fights? So
because they practice their lightsaber fighting and not their acting usually.
Right. Well,
yeah.
Just saying, there's a lot of crossover here, Jason.
Yeah.
So yeah, the thing that I think stands out to me the most in terms of just being like, it getting in the way of itself sometimes when I'm like, oh, this is dope, is the editing across all the episodes is so weird. The wipes almost happen randomly and they're not paced right, and sometimes they move too quick, they move at different speeds, and like sometimes the scenes end too quickly, and sometimes they drag on too long, and it's not like a subjective matter, like and the way they normally, like Lucas would do like a Kurosawa wipe where they pick up an item, and then they would like wipe with the item to transition a moment. Sometimes characters are just like talking, and then whoop, and then someone else is right in the frame where they were, and you have to like go, whoa, wait a minute, like I just like jumped. They call that crossing the lines, like crossing the streams. Like in there's a rule, like a 180 rule in like cinema. If you have a guy, if I'm here and then I flip to you and you're here, you know what I mean? It's jarring, you know?
Yeah.
And they do this stuff consistently, like jumping between the A story and the B story. It's not paced in a way where it's like the cinema that's cinematically hitting that, like with the lightsaber, and then like we're gaining, and then the starships, like in Return of the Jedi, when the lightsabers clash, right, and in between's the Emperor and he's laughing, it holds, and then the music can, and the ships fly and it cuts through, and that is fantastic editing. Like that is where it grips you. This, it just changes. Like you can see it every episode when the logo for the show appears, and it just comes out of nowhere, and it's gone really before you can even notice it. You know, and you're just like, I don't know how I'm supposed to like. It's just hard to settle in. I don't know if that makes any sense to you. For me, it's very difficult to settle in.
Well, I think they're trying. I think what they're going for and failing at is they're trying to get the old Star Wars editing style down. I think they were trying to go for that, like how those wipes and stuff feel, because they do inherently feel weird. Like we take a lot of it for granted because we've grown up or watched Star Wars so much over the years that it's like, yeah, it does that. But when you really look at it objectively, the Star Wars movies do move kind of weird though, with the wipes and that kind of stuff. And I don't know how you could go and copy it on a series.
It's a language. They built a visual language based off the Kurosawa thing, but it has its own flavor. I'm reminded of when I went to college, my animation teacher came out of Fox and Disney Animation. Like he worked on Little Mermaid, Oliver and Company, and then like Rover, Dangerfield, things like that. But he handed me a copy of Brad Bird's storytelling guide, because Brad Bird was lead story guy on The Simpsons for the first 4 seasons. Okay. So if you're going to watch the first 4 seasons of The Simpsons, they have really well constructed stories. It's not like when Family Guy shows up, it's like rando joke. But if you watch those first 4 or 5 seasons or so, there's actually legitimate stories being told. And there were just these rules that Brad Bird drew, what works with the Simpsons character, what hasn't, that they've sort of developed over time. One would think there would be a guide for classic Star Wars. You know, here's the editing. It kind of works like this. Make sure you don't do it here. You know, like just guide. And I know like once you execute it, you got to like tailor everything to what.
Well, you heard it here, folks. Brad Bird is the word.
Well, they offered him the damn series that he took to Tomorrowland, the poor bastard. So like, big mistake, Brad. Big mistake. Yeah.
Dummy.
So like, but I'm just saying, like a lot of times when people feel like this isn't working or that doesn't work, I'm telling you, the editing, it's the silent storyteller in everything you get, and there's no better example of it so Pulp Fiction is an example of a story being told out of order. And I said, you know, people have reconstructed it in order, and it's better when told out of order. Right? So then so when they invoke Pulp Fiction, I'm like, all right, tell your story in order. Is it better in order or out of order? This story would be told better in order. And I said that in the second episode we did, the first show. I'm like, I'm not seeing anything here that justifies telling the story out of order. And when they invoke Rashomon, I don't know if people have seen Rashomon. I went back and rewatched a bit of it, right? It's only 90 minutes, so you can rewatch it. It's a quick watch. But like that, what's crazy about Rashomon, people forget, is like it's a story being told with unreliable narrators, but it's a ghost story. They bring back a ghost, you know, from a medium conjures up a ghost, and the ghost tells you who killed them, and they got to take the ghost word for it. But you find out that even the ghost isn't telling the truth. And I'm like, interesting, given that in Star Wars, you actually can talk to ghosts, right? Like, what if this story had opened, if this were a movie?
So Anakin shows up, it's like, yeah, I killed all those kids. It was me.
Or what if this opens up and there really is like a legitimate Sith witch, the kind like in the concept art, versus Jedi battle, right? It goes like, and Saul say, the Jedi say the kids, it's the classic Star Wars you'd think. And then it cuts, right? And you're like, it's like one of the Jedi in an interrogation, and it's them telling their account of that story, you know? And then these Jedi over this course of the first act start to get murdered off, right? And that account, you know what I mean? Goes, and the person in the Senate, if it's Palpatine or whoever the hell they want to do, someone meaningful is like, I think they're lying. The Jedi are lying to us. They're holding something back, right? Then you have a grippy mystery, and then you can go, well, actually, it went like this, right? Like, that, it's missing that hook, you know? Like,
well, and that is what is also weird about it is the Chimera being the Sith Lord. Headland says I think it was in Empire. I wasn't really trying to hide that. Like it was, and I agree, because from the first episode, I was like, or second episode, it's like pretty clear that guy is probably the Sith Lord or probably something like that. And we called it really early. So I don't think it was because we're so smart. I think it's because it was obvious. Yeah, but then obvious. we do have, like, as Jordan says, the reason they've done it out of order is to try to create questions. And exactly, they want to create questions so you keep subscribing to Disney Plus and you keep watching each week and you watch episode to episode and stuff like that. But it was sort of weird when you have like the Sith Lord and the twins things. We talked about this very briefly last night. It's like those are the two big questions. Like you could have really done something really intriguing with the story that you got, like the general gist of it, you know, the layout of it.
Yeah, so we know they're lying. We know they're hiding. Why are they hiding it? What happened? And you have to see the story. I think if they're trying to show the story from like a kid's point of view, it's not really in that kid's point of view because it's jumping kids. Like you're going to May and then you're going to Osha, and there's no like follow through on one character. Like when you're with Luke Skywalker on Dagobah, where you're Luke Skywalker on Hoth, and then you're with Han Solo on Hoth, you know whose POV you're with. You're with Han Solo when you're over his shoulder and you're following him around Echo Base. Then when it wipes to Luke, you're following, and when Luke comes in, you're following Luke over the shoulder, so you know you're not in Han's POV. This not tracking characters in any way. It's just jumping from a third person. They call it third person unreliable or something unrelated. Third person is the third person. There's three kinds of ways to write a book: first person, third person. Then there's this other one, which is like this omniscient thing, where like you're kind of saying that person did this and this person did that, and it's like the most rookie mistake you can make as a writer. Like, do not do that. There's a like this is like why, because you don't know who you're like with at any given moment. There's characters there. Someone who's not skilled to see it would say, "Oh no, Ra, I know who's talking. And May's talking. And then Osha's talking." I'm like, yeah, but there's a reason why you're not engaged on any particular one. You're just watching things happen and people saying things because you're not feeling it from their POV. When you feel it from their POV, you're able to engage more. The Harry Potter films, the first two, kind of do this, and that's why I fell asleep. They even talked about this once during the making of those films. Alphonse Cuarón came on the third one and decided to go, why don't we just show everything from Harry's point of view? Because there's so many narrators in the book, we don't got time for that, and it's hard to latch. So they started moving to just seeing what Harry saw, so you could follow a lead character in the movie.
Yeah.
You know, and
did you see that they got the Succession cat to do the Harry Potter show for HBO?
Yeah, good call for them, man.
Yeah, that's
good
cool.
Grab for them, dude. You know?
Yeah.
So, but yeah, so I understand. I think I said on the second episode, I'll get why people will like it. I'm gonna say, I think for the average Disney Plus subscribing Star Wars fan, they're gonna give it around a 7, maybe even some people will say a 10 once lightsabers show up. I said that on the second episode. I don't change my stance here, you know, like I think, but when you compare it to its peers, the audience overall on the internet it's going for, which is not the 6-year-olds. It's not, the show isn't competing with Bluey. You know, it's not going, man, we're going after that Paw Patrol crowd. When a Sith sticks 3 holes into Jackie, right? That's not for kids.
Okay,
you know, that's for everybody.
real quickly on that note, okay? I am over it on the internet with how stupid most of these people are. I'm just done. When they're like, Star Wars, it's for kids, but like, well, the show's TV 14. The show was literally for 14-year-olds. You literally have they literally put the age on the start of the show.
Yeah.
It's not for 5-year-olds.
Combat and The Crow, Jason. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like when
Batman '89. You know, like
yeah. I mean, when the show's Y7, yeah, it's for babies.
Right.
Okay, when it's not Y7,
Young Jedi Adventures is for kids, man. Just stop.
Yeah, it's for babies.
Yeah.
And baby-brained adults.
Right. You don't spend $180 million on a live action kids show. Like, imagine Full House with $180 million. But I would love to see
there is this one particular kiss ass guy in the Star Wars community that I don't want to see his stuff, but people always send it to me because he's such a clown. And when they put that stupid blue bear from Jedi Adventures, he's all, this whips ass.
Whips ass.
Whips ass. That. Imagine being such a sellout. You're saying a blue teddy bear whips ass. You know what I mean?
Let him cook, Jason. Let that bear cook.
Let it cook, bro. Yeah, it's getting there, dude. But yeah, no, I mean, I'm with you because right now, I'm a man without a country when it comes to a Star Wars. I don't. I think every single
the Rambo theme, right?
Yeah. I'm like, you know what? I just want to get something to eat around here. You know, that's just like where I'm at.
And Disney Plus is driving you out of town. No, this town's for kids.
No,
you go to the
fans.
next town.
No, it's the fans who are driving me out of town.
The fans are like, this town's for kids, Jason. You don't eat here.
One side of this fandom are cops, and the other side of the fandom are the Viet Cong, and I don't know where I belong. So,
oh no,
yeah.
Oh no, Hanoi Jane. My dad's gonna rise. Dude, it was funny when my dad passed away. I was going through his stuff. He still had his biker jacket with Hanoi Jane patches. I was like, "This."
Oh yeah,
man.
Do you still have it?
Yeah, I saved his stuff. Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
But yeah. So, anyways, back to the show. Like, yeah, it's super weird because like Saul and Kir are fantastic. I think they're rad characters. I think the acting on both
those two guys.
Yeah, well, and that's kind of what it's supposed to be in a way. Like they're the interesting people, and then our twin is kind of like watching them, you know, or interceding into their bigger conflict or whatever.
I think Saul, Jackie, and Kir, you could build a show around. Because I don't want people to go, "Oh, Rob, two guys, you don't want a girl." No. It's just that.
I like that moment though.
I'm just dumbstruck, man. Like when you get the opportunity to play, like, I think it's like an actor's dream sometimes to play two versions of themselves at the same time. Like a version of Terminator 2, if the liquid metal thing didn't work, was going to be just two Arnolds.
Or like Marty McFly when he's playing guitar and up in the Raptors at the same time. No, okay.
Doesn't work when he's playing his autistic son and daughter, you know, like works far less there, you know, like that's not good.
You really get hung up on
better
that,
as the daughter
that
than
moment.
The son doesn't.
You really hate that moment because over the years I have heard you attack that specific moment.
It's not good. It was a bad
many times.
I think he plays better as the daughter. I think it would have been better if I've said it before, if Elizabeth Shue had played the son and he had played the daughter, if they were going to go that route.
I also think it would have been better if Elizabeth Shue was my girlfriend.
Well, it would have been better if Crispin Glover came back and she was your girlfriend. Right. I'll take the original.
And Crispin Glover's my best friend and she's my girlfriend. That would
Can we get Crispin Glover to do Clowny Clown for Acolyte? I would love to see.
Yeah, he'll do it. He'll wear that. He'll wear the helmet and everything.
He'd be so great in Star Wars. He really would. Anyway, folks, that's my problem. Like, you got someone who can show. You get the opportunity to play a one-person, two-act thing, and I'm just not. I'm not getting it. I even rewatched Much Ado About Nothing, the movie.
You weren't liking Chimere's thing where he's like playing the fool and he's really like the master.
He's
the whole
better
time?
at it. No, he's better at it. Yeah.
Okay.
But that's not playing two different characters. It's playing a character in disguise.
It's playing a character who's lying. Yeah.
OSHA's playing two.
Okay. You're talking about OSHA and May.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's my issues. Like that. I mean, you don't need to cut the bangs. Just you're acting the same. I guess if we're gonna go on personality here, you know, like if that's the litmus test. But no,
I thought she was gonna go. I'm not Rick James, and like flips it off. You know,
the only thing he did, and it's not him. It's just a take on the line. I'm Rick James because she's got the Rick James.
I'm not Rick James, and she cuts it. Oh no! Or who was the other one with the hair? Bo Derek.
Dude, if OSHA started stamping on Soul's bed and go, fuck your sofa, right? Like, that would be hilarious, right? Like I curse. Sorry.
Jackie's tied up to a radiator or something. You're like, what? What's going on here?
Yeah. Throws Kir into a window or a mirror. That'd be hilarious, right? The only one I thought, it's not him. It's that line where he goes, well, I did wear a mask. You're like, that's a corny line to begin with, but he sells it. You know what I mean?
He has the charisma to make it work. And
he 100%,
also, when he's all, she was a child. And then he's like, he brought her here. That's pretty good.
But this is what I was saying from the Solo movie. I need a guy like that kind of swagger is a Solo swagger. Kir has, that actor can pull that out. Like, that dude would steal my wife from me in like 3 minutes, dude. Like, it's not just the arms, he has
the arms. Honestly, all he needs is the arms.
I'm jealous of the arms.
Yeah.
But, what can you do,
Right.
But there are things that, like, when the show sells you on the idea that's going to be about Sith apprentice and learning Sith stuff. And look, he's a Sith, so just let it go, folks. Stop with the whole, you can't be, because I've said this a million times. If they just want to change it, they'll change it. That's how Star Wars works, folks. You need to just get over that. If they want to show you K2SO meeting Andor in some different situation, they're going to do it. If they didn't want to do it so they don't have to deal with it, they won't deal with it. But they're not being told not to do things,
If you buy books and comic books and you think that you have a sacred pact with the corporation, you're dumb.
Like the gate, right? You got a pact with it, right?
Yeah, a little eyeball in the hand. No.
Stephen Dorff comes out and lets you know otherwise,
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter. None of these things matter. And they never have. What matters is the thing being made at that moment. Even movie to movie, it can change. That's why Princess Leia can kiss Luke Skywalker in Empire and find out she's his brother in the next movie because Lucas just changed it.
Well, look at it from an economic standpoint. Even what is the investment in one of these novels? You think a $30,000 advance? I'm not really sure, so I'm like guessing. But like you're gonna write
plus, but even then, let's say they spent $100,000 to produce, package, ship.
But versus $180 million.
Right, they don't care.
They're not going to let anything stop the $180 million machine from doing all they can do.
Plus,
because of
I think these fans don't understand how Hollywood, like actual Hollywood works on hubris and seniority and like royalty. It's almost like this unspoken royalty system. Like Jeff Snyder called it like the Spielberg mafia or whatever. Like like to make a joke out of it. But there is like hierarchy, and feature films are still seen as being above. The Oscars are seen as being above Emmys. You understand what I'm saying? So if you're like, I'm making a movie, right? Then a movie is above whatever the TV is doing. And TV in this country is above anime. I don't see it this way, but that's how they see it,
Yeah.
So
really quickly, before I forget, Brandon says, it's weird that the writer said we didn't get a Kelnaka fight because of budget. And when the series costs $180 million. Well, the thing is that the third and the seventh episode are directed by the same person because they both have the flashback moments in them. So you are going to get the Kelnaka fight. You're just not going to get two Kelnaka fights. They were like, no,
are you going to get the Kelnaka fight in the flashback, or are you going to get the Kelnaka fight against the Sith?
No, in the flashback.
Kir. The
flashback.
They're talking about the Kir killing Kelnaka is the thing we didn't get to see because of money.
Yes,
unquote.
but even I think at that point, even if they said here's another 10 million to do it, which is way more than they would ever need, if they were to do it, I don't think that you need to see the Wookiee fight twice. I don't think you need to have that.
There's also a thing when you're doing like a whiteboard where you put down ideas. Okay, we're in the High Republic. What are all the things we could do? We got Wookiee Jedi.
I'm white and bored, so I understand all of it.
Whiteboard is where you put down all your ideas on a whiteboard, or let's say you used to put them on index cards and put them up on a pin board, but now they use like a whiteboard. So you just write down, if I put down a subject, the High Republic, right? Anything that comes to your mind, let's just write down ideas. Okay.
I like the index card system better, by the way. I think it is superior.
I think the card system is better, but it also depends on who's running the room. Like I think Vince Gilligan goes through the whiteboard process.
I fired him.
Yeah, I know. But
I said, get out of here. Go make Breaking Bad or something that sucks on like what I'm working on right now.
But when you say, so someone pitches Wookiee Jedi, and you're like, oh man, Wookiee Jedis. All right, we can have Wookiee Jedis, right? And you're like, we got to get a Wookiee Jedi in there. So you go through all the things and the things that
it's in the movie.
get these beats, and then you try to find a way to work some of those into the story, right? But when you say Wookiee Jedi fight, man, like to me, like we haven't seen a Wookiee Jedi fight, right? So wouldn't that be like a big draw? Like wouldn't you put that above, let's say,
not in live action? Yeah, not in live action.
Well, look, I'm just telling you, they don't seem to care if there's something live action or animated.
No. At this point now, with Filoni's position, I think the animation is more secure than it's ever going to be.
Okay, well, I'm just saying.
Yeah.
But
live action
that rises,
is a
and
draw.
when you place a Jedi Wookiee into a story, people start looking at that Jedi Wookiee and go, man, and then they say we're gonna go kill him. So now they're building up a fight. Like it'd be one thing if he just never dealt with it. He was in the background somewhere, and you're like, hey man, we never promised you nothing. But then you're like, I got a whole character, and the premise of the show is getting revenge against these guys, and we are cutting to this guy randomly throughout episodes to show you there he is. And then the character who has to kill him even says, man, I gotta fight and then you get there and he's already dead. And then you're like, all right, so like in order for that to work, it needs to be like almost like a Tarantino thing where like you open the door and there's like blood everywhere, right? Like it's like what happened, you know? But it's just not, the reveals aren't paced enough for it to sort of happen in a way that justifies not showing it or not promising it and then not showing it. So then you're just left with, man, would have been cool to see that thing, you know? Like
yeah.
It's just one of those things where you're like, well, I get, and look, they're gonna at some point, folks, show a Wookiee Jedi fight because now it's there, you know, like that's just gonna statistically happen. So.
Sabersmith says, I'm not seeing that $180 million on the screen. So where did that money go? You don't think that these episodes look like they're $22 million, $22.5 million a piece? Because I think they do. Like in totality.
I was talking to I have a friend who works in production in LA, you know? And so I was asking him, you know, he's on set right now. And I'm like, all right, so, and he's in production, like cameras and stuff, right? So he's got an idea on some kind of budget. And dude shot Star Wars commercials at Galaxy Edge. So he's at least got some Star Wars relation. So I'm like, all right, so there's a 30% markup on production post-COVID. Am I right on that? And he said around there, 20 to 40, give or take, you know, that there is been an increase in just the cost of everything.
I think and I think that's going down now, but I think that was true when they were making Acolyte.
Definitely when they made this. So
yeah.
So what's 30% of 180 million? I don't fucking know. You know what I mean? Let's just take someone do the math on that one. So let's just say that takes it down to about 130, 120 million for the series. And then you're like, all right, 120 million. Let's say this has an average of about 40 minutes or 37 minutes an episode times 8, you know, like I guess that puts it around 17, 18 million. Still slightly above. It's around Game of Thrones, right? At that point. The problem is Game of Thrones manages to like reuse those sets throughout the entirety of a series a lot, you know, and this is constantly doing like new areas, you know, so like there's like, it's just weird how they amortize all that. The question I think people will have is they go, oh, more money means we would see it. And
we know that more money means more problems, right?
Yeah. Well, they built a lot of elaborate sets. And I guarantee you, when they got on those sets, everyone was like going, man, this is amazing. They're just looking around. These sets are huge. They're huge sets. You've all complained that the volume is these little cubicles, right? With like a screen. So they made these big elaborate sets. But did it achieve the thing you wanted, which was the belief of going somewhere and having like it feel real? And the answer is no, it still feels like a stage play.
Yeah, last week you and I texted each other, or you texted me Land of the Lost when I had just texted Santa Land of the Lost. And I was like, yeah, we're on the same page here on that. But you know what? But this week it becomes evident what that was. They made that set to get dark for this part of the episode. And when you're seeing all of that stuff in the last week's episode, it looks stupid, looks cheap. And then, but
that cuts back to why bother making 2 35-minute episodes when it could have just been 1 hour-long thing.
And you know? I'm pretty sure they pretty much have in a roundabout way said this was 1 episode and we cut it into 2 because we decided to make it 2 episodes for money reasons. I think it was to justify to Disney the expense. And I think that's actually, I think that's what Lucasfilm did to justify the
But they're not
expense.
pulling a hood over anyone. People see it. It's just been one episode.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, episodes of X-Men 97 are longer than these things. And it's just like,
it's one of those problems that's a problem this week. And then next month, next month, it's never going to be a problem again because you're just going to watch it all together, you know, at one time. Ironheart says,
stick with it.
Yeah, Amanda Sundberg is a good actress. You people need to. What do you mean by you people? What does that mean? Fucking disgusted, man. No,
Right.
Ironheart. I have seen her in other movies. She is a good actor. But it doesn't mean that the performance here is good. It doesn't mean that yet the filmmakers gave her the opportunity to be good in this.
Also, Ironheart, maybe you should watch the show more often because I've consistently criticized Lucas's direction of Sam Jackson in the prequels, and he just came off of Jackie frickin' Brown. He should have won an Oscar for Sam Jackson's a brilliant actor who's wasted in the prequels with giving, you know, like a stilted, boring performance. That's direction, you know? So, like, at the same time, I've seen Ewan McGregor pull off dual roles in Fargo. Oscar Isaac pulled off, 3 people in Moonlight or something. And, like, this was her opportunity to do that. So, like, you got to fight for... Are you saying that she was held back from giving a riveting performance? No, I don't think she was held back from giving... This is what she chose to do. You know? Like, and so you made a weird call. It's a weird call. Even you were saying, Ironheart, that it's not a good performance. So, you know, live and learn. I love the actress who played Reva. She has
Moses Ingram.
Coolest fucking name ever, by the way.
Yeah.
Moses Ingram was brilliant.
Holy Moses Ingram.
Was brilliant in the Queen's Gambit. Brilliant. Like, really just reminded me of some people I knew in my childhood. I was like...
She's doing a show with Natalie Portman for Apple now.
Interested in that. Yeah. So, like, this is, maybe it's something where people get on set and they're like, well, Star Wars is this. I don't know what that is. I'm not her agent. You know, like, I'm not the director or the showrunner. I can merely tell you.
You ready for the twist?
If you're going to hang a story.
I'm her agent.
If you're going to hang a story on me empathizing between 2 characters, sisters that are twins that are supposed to have this, like, love-hate relationship, I'm not feeling they're 2 different people. You know, I'm not interested in their whether they love or don't love one another. They'd had the opportunity with the kids and it didn't work there. They had the opportunity with Amanda, it didn't work there. So it's a group fail. It's not any one person. It's a group fail. You know, and I'm not giving everyone a pass because I don't get a pass. Like, I screw something up, people like, you suck, man. I'm like, all right, you know, like, whatever.
Yeah,
but
you
it
do
is
suck.
a shame because I didn't go in here going, man, let's do it, bro. I didn't know anything. This is time to win, Rob. You know, like, I never saw Squid Game. I want you people to know. Never watched it. Started to watch about 3 minutes of it. And when he was getting yelled at by his older mom, I turned it off because I have mom issues. And I'm like, I don't need to hear. My mom had, like, recently passed. And I was like, I don't need to watch this, you know? I like the actor who, you know, that plays Saul. I think he's great. I don't know who the actor who plays Kmir is. You know, and Jackie, I haven't seen that actress since Logan, but I think she's doing a brilliant job, right? So, what do you want? I got to go watch 20 movies with every actor appeared in a film.
We don't have to spend 45 minutes on.
I never watched a Twilight film. I never watched a Twilight film, and I love Robert Pattinson as the Batman, right?
Yeah, Brian May's my favorite guitar player, and every now and then he does a guest solo on another track, and it doesn't make the song good. You know, it's still a bad song.
No, is it Richard Taylor? Who's the drummer? I get him confused with
Roger Taylor.
I get him confused with the Weta guy, right? From Richard Taylor. Roger Taylor looks great as a chick.
Taylor Swift,
right? As a it looks great in pigtails. Questions.
Roger Taylor is Taylor Swift.
I've always questioned my sexuality when Roger Taylor.
Oh yeah, from I Want to Break Free.
Yeah. So, you know, like, this is not a woman hating show, man. Get past it.
Sabersmith says, I saw all of that 10 million in Godzilla -1. I know. Movie versus TV. The Godzilla -1 budget thing is still a little bit of a mystery. It turns out they were saying it was like 15 million at one point, and I think it actually turned out to be quite a bit more than that in reality. But
It
on
still
that
looks.
no, but it's still an amazing, that was an amazing feat. But when you look at like what it actually has, and it's real world stuff for the most part, like, and then it's just a Star Wars. Everything has to be kind of be made or repurposed. It's a completely like different beast. So if
Well,
you
it
were
was
to make
shot.
some, Mhm.
I watched it recently, Jason,
Yeah,
and it was shot, especially during like the Godzilla rampaging through the city scene. It was shot like you were there. It's kind of over the shoulder of people. It's tracking Godzilla around,
hmm
in a very like non over the top way. It's just like oh my God, boots on the ground. People are getting wiped out, and I've constantly told you that's my favorite kind of filmmaking. And I think so how it was shot plays into beyond just the visual. It allows the visual effects to work versus if you've seen like Hideo Anno and the guy who created Evangelion did a few Godzilla films, and they're very over the top, and they had about the same kind of budget. So it just
yeah.
depends on how you shoot,
So Godzilla minus one has an estimated budget of 15 million. I remember there being something about it. I'm sorry that I'm the unreliable Rashomon narrator on this, but there was something to it that made it very unlikely it was actually as low as 15 million. It was a bit more. But once again, it doesn't even matter. If you made that movie for 50 million, it's still amazing. Like that's I think it was probably one of the best movies I saw last year. So anyways, though, yeah, they so back to the show. You know, are you interested in the next episode after all that's gone down in this one and how it goes?
If I weren't doing the show with you, would I
Yeah.
stick with the show is the question. And the answer is nah, I'd wait for the highlights, just
Yeah.
to see the lightsaber fights,
hmm
and any other kung fu fights. Because, like, yeah, I like Saul, but I'm not like, I can't recommend this show, to like my wife. She's not going to sit there. And we watched Doctor Who, man. And Doctor Who was corny. There's a episode this season of Doctor Who where there's like babies in a chair and they're talking. And I made an Eric the actor joke.
hmm
And then the character's name was Eric. And my wife looks at me and I was like, I knew they watched it, right? But and there's a booger monster. And it's like, this shouldn't work. But there's a scene at the end where they're going to snatch. I'm going to spoil this stupid episode for you. But they're going to suck the booger monster out like aliens, right? Out the space vac.
hmm
And Doctor Who looks through the window at the booger and realizes there's that because he gives a speech in the first part of the series where he tells his new companion he's unique among the usual. There's only one of them. There's nothing like him. He's the only one
Okay.
left. And then when he sees this booger monster being like shucked out, the xenomorph, he realized that's a one of a kind creature too.
Mm.
And he's empathized through the use of music, no words, through the use of the actor's performance. He's realizing this thing doesn't deserve to die just because it exists. So now, even though it's corny, there's something to say. You know what I mean? There's something to say. And I
Something
don't
to
think
think
the
about.
show has anything to say or for
Mhm.
me to think about other than to guess mysteries that aren't that well mysteried to begin with. So
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's where I'm at with it is now that we've hit this point and like Jordan, Jackie are dead and the twins have switched. I'm like what can it do after this that is going to be super, how is this the mid-season finale? Like what do you guys have for the end? And my fear right now is that this is that the show peaks in the middle. That's my fear of it, and then we just kind of coast downhill as things just kind of tidy up on the way back.
Well, you're
I hope that's
hoping
not
that
the
they
case.
don't make Saul just into a complete idiot. Like he can't tell that isn't his student,
Yeah,
You're hoping
no,
they don't
I mean,
go that route. That it takes the rodent to sniff out the bad guy, like
well, he has like a lot. There's a lot going on right there in that very moment that might make it get past him in a way I could buy. He was knocked out
but it's
and
a
stunned.
long walk out that they
Mhm.
walk from that forest all the way onto the real set. I'm like, that was a long trek. That took at least an hour or two. You're telling me they're not gonna have a conversation here and there on the way back, like walking?
Maybe when your student just got killed and stuff like that, you just kind of don't want to talk about anything. Maybe it was a silent walk back. I could see that. If I was writing the novelization, I could justify it. I think I could do it.
Yeah, but in a novelization, you'd explain that they didn't want to have a conversation. You know,
Yeah.
feel like it. I mean, here, it's just people moving on. So
Well,
you're left to conjecture.
Baymax says episode 6 they crash again. Saul ain't making it back to Coruscant, I don't think. Yeah, and that's the thing I was going to say earlier. Is you have in the very first episode, Indara dies, who's a big star, a big actor. She dies. Then we have Torben. Is that his name? Torben. He takes the poison and he dies. Kelnaka is killed in his little Wookiee chair. And then now Jackie and Yord got stabbed. One got their neck broken. I don't see how anybody makes it to the end of this, because the Jedi don't know the Sith have returned. And so I don't think any of them can make it back. I think that everybody in this show will probably die, except for the one who becomes the Acolyte. And right now, my reading of the whole thing, when he says, I want an Acolyte, I think that is the apprentice saying, I want to kill my master, and I need somebody worthy enough to be my apprentice so we can do this together, because I can't do it by myself. I need my new person's help. So I don't think this ends. I don't think this may not end with anybody becoming a Sith, or necessarily. It might end with her becoming the actual Acolyte, and then we just know what her future is. Her future is that if they're going to try to, and I'm going to guess it's going to be Osha. I think Osha's going to learn the truth about what Saul was doing because now she's with the Sith, probably the Sith apprentice. And I think in that moment she's gonna change. And then I think that we're gonna have the switcheroo where May's gonna be like, nah, I liked you better good. I don't like you like this, and she's gonna try to save her, but I think she's gonna have to kill her sister to get the position, and she will do it. Because this is a dark side story. So this pretty much has to go that way, I would think. If it ends up like all happy with the twins moving to Ord Mantell and opening a sundry shop, then no.
Right, I'll watch that. Whatever happened to the Acolyte, the milkman, the paperboy?
Yeah.
He named Hitty. Yeah, I like it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean and then the lightsaber fighting on a second watch holds up. I mean, best Disney Plus lightsaber fighting we've ever had. I don't think it's necessarily better than some of the stuff we've had in the films. But I think it's on par with a lot of the stuff we had in the films, and better than some of the stuff we've had in the films even. So I give like a lot of credit to that. There's like a lot of good ideas and like a lot of shots, but I also see Rob's editing kind of critique here, where I see a ton of good ideas, but I don't really feel like they flowed into each other necessarily all the time very well. And there's like, yeah, I was confused when I watched it why Yord grabbed the helmet off the ground, because then he just gets killed and it looked really stupid. I thought that needed a moment, but I asked Bespin, and his response to me was, it looked to me as if he grabbed it as a counter to Chimere's saber, block the shot with the helmet, which he knows is resistant, and swing with his own saber. So I think he's correct, and I think that's exactly what it was. But when I watched it in the edit of that, I was like, this is not conveyed very
no, you have to then switch to yours POV
or it's the coverage, and the editor just had nothing they could do for whatever,
right.
However it goes.
In order for that idea to work, if that's the intention,
yeah,
you have to sort of switch to Yord's POV, where he picks up the helmet, and he's like they're making plans for this guy.
Yeah, and he's like,
and he weights it. You know
like
what I mean?
Shield. Yeah,
right. Yeah, you know what I mean. He's like, and he looks over and he grabs it, and then you have to like.
He goes cortosis, and he licks it. That's what it's called in the EU, and all the EU fans are like, yeah, it's called cortosis. It's like, okay, cool, bud. Arya says, yeah, we saw Yord break the Sith saber with the helmet, but it was so quick. Yeah,
that's how I met my first wife, Jason. Cortosis. He was at a meeting, and I just licked it.
Yeah, you gotta lick the cortosis.
How you like OSHA? I'm writing some new characters. One's called PPP, and the other one's called FICA. It's gonna be in my movie, Jason.
All right.
Movies. Hope to see you in the car park, Jason.
See you soon, Dave.
Kissy, kissy.
Bye.
All right. Good guy,
Yeah.
dude.
He's a good guy.
He's a busy dude.
Yeah, he's a pervert, but he's a good guy. Anyways.
I get it.
Yeah, I can
I
relate.
understand.
But yeah.
Yeah, it's a shame that there's just things where when Kymir's like blocking the sabers with his hand, I thought he was blocking it with like a glove or a gauntlet at first, but it looks like he's just force blocking it. It'd be great to like
No.
see how-
Kymir has like the armor that the lightsaber is short out when it hits it. It's
I
like a
see.
really.
Sometimes it didn't look like it's on his wrist though. It's just I don't know. That's what
It
I
wasn't.
thought.
Yeah, it wasn't very clear. It wasn't very clear. Like that's what was happening. Like I don't think that there was ever like a moment where a character goes like, "That's cortosis. What the hell?" Like there was something like that.
Yeah.
Okay, here's what it says on Wikipedia. Cortosis was a metal that had a very high energy absorption rate and transition coefficients, which allowed even the energy of a blaster bolt to be dissipated upon contact. One of the strongest minerals in the galaxy, cortosis could even withstand the blow of a lightsaber and briefly short out its blade. It could also redirect the heat of explosions, and discovered when General Anakin Skywalker attempted to collapse an entrance of a cortosis mine. So
See, there's an exposition moment you could have if execute this show couldn't do it, but there is a way to do it where when Kymir has in his like potion lab, he's having that conversation with May. If they were like, really, you know what I mean, like a cue moment for I don't know. There's a way to do that,
right.
Oh,
and it was in the Afra comics with Vader and stuff, and it's like a thing there. So like right there, that's a good example of where the publishing matters or the publishing has things. But if you were to ask me, should you read 107 comics to know what cortosis is in this episode? I think you're wasting your time, and it's going to make you mad.
Gotta do it, Jason. You gotta.
Baymax says cortosis is an alloy which propels lightsabers in 80s metal bands.
Well, it was Kurt Russell's 80s metal band. It was literally kind of band called Kurtosis. It's true.
I think there was like a kind of an important moment in the episode that relates to the future when she's like, "Hey, don't you remember who we are or what we are?" And I think it's having been created sort of like they're the anti-Anakin. The Force creates Anakin, but the evil people, the witches, created those girls. And I think that what we're gonna figure out is that there was a deal here where Kymir goes to the Sith. Sorry, the Kymir the Sith goes to the witches, and he's like, "I heard you could get in people's heads. I want that power." And then he, in turn, I think, teaches them the Plagueis thing, how to will life into existence. And I know they say that's only one has known before, but if Plagueis is his master, that might explain it. But I think
there's
that
also
there was
like
some kind of exchange here, and that's got to play into the end of this.
I'd say there's just it's got to, but I don't know if it will. Like it's like the bug thing, right? Like you set up the Force with the bugs, and then they're attracted to light, even though the bug was in front of the sun, with its back to the sun, not caring. Okay, so I figure the lightsabers can attract. Can't use your lightsabers in the Force is what they're going with. But when they're walking through the Force with Mario Van Peebles, sorry, these characters don't matter enough to me to remember their names, dude. No bug is attracted to the thing called a lightsaber. It's attracted to a flashlight. So it's weird when she says turn it off, but they're not coming for him. Like they're kind of busy up there, but so she has to like shine her flashlight. Wouldn't they just follow the saber?
Last episode, he turns on this. He cuts the bug when it's coming for her, and he kills it. And he goes, "It's attracted to the light."
Right, but then they're walking through the Force the whole time, and it doesn't. So she has to turn on her flashlight. So she uses them to like basically flare like so they would have done this in the 80s. They use car flares for everything in the 80s. Like that was the big thing. Remember?
Yeah.
So she does this, she runs, and then when she gets to the bad, you already know what they're gonna do. Okay, they're gonna use the bugs against the bad guy, right? You go back to the bad guy, but when she gets there, there's no bugs. There's this long pause again. She should have just ran right in there and thrown it. You know what I mean? And the bugs just go in there and attack. Like there's this constant start and stop and start and stop and start and stop. Almost like it was shot and they did reshoots or something. You know what I mean? And put it in between scenes. Maybe that's how that worked. I don't know. Like it's just like totally, it's oddly paced. Like if this were a classic Star Wars 80s film, or even Beyond the Thunderdome or Mad Max in the Thunderdome, when Mad Max is a Han Solo, he runs in the back, sees the guys, comes back out running, you know, like there would have been this continuous buildup of energy, like the Spielberg dun 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 dun, dun, right, where it builds and builds and collides, and it doesn't do any of that. It's weird to invoke these things, but then not actually use
Moose says, Rob and or Jason, where do you think the lack of cohesion, either in story, writing, or directing, is coming from? It's not the first time it's happened in Star Wars TV, but it seems more egregious in Acolyte.
I don't think it's any more egregious than Kenobi or Boba Fett, man. Or Ahsoka. No, I told you, it feels like a studio. It feels like I've been saying this since, Kenobi, I think is probably when I first started complaining. I think I've seen talent come into studios, whether it's game studios or t-shirt companies or comics, and I've seen sometimes they're just not. It's not that they're not allowed to. Sometimes you're like just trying to play on brand, like, hey, this is what we do. How do you work within this thing? And, and you're like, all right, this just feels like this got a lot of studio notes. And I think when we saw Andor, I said, I think they're like being left out of that. Like Gilroy's either created a wall of separation, or because he made them $1 billion, they're hands off. Right? Like he saved them on Rogue One. Like, I don't know what that is. I don't know. I don't have any clue, but something's happened where they were just like, well, we're not getting involved.
Over the years, I've heard that Kennedy's approach is really hands off, like really, really hands off. But I think once you lose you lose trust with her, then it becomes very hands on. And then that's like the Lego Movie guys is like probably an example of where she was like, guys, need you to do this thing. And they're like, yeah, okay. And then they didn't do it. And then it falls apart very quickly after that. My take though on it is, I think that you're doing a lot of very expensive stuff, hundreds and hundreds of very expensive things. And in it, some things have to be made less good. If you don't have the time, the energy, or the willpower to make it like happen, And I think that with this show, you'll see this certain shot where you're like, they spent money on that shot. They made this moment happen. They made sure to capture it. And then you see other moments where you're like, yeah, they didn't care about this right here at all. They just wanted to get through this. And that's how I feel like the show has been shot so far.
Yeah, I mean, I believe in top-down leadership. So if I'm going to hold people accountable, it's the people at the top, Like directors don't get to approve budgets. Writers don't get to approve budgets. Writers don't control how actors act. At the end of the day, the people in charge are putting together teams and they're approving scripts and moving forward on projects and they're promoting. And so like the blame lies at the top if it's not working. Rise of Skywalker is the Kathleen Kennedy fail. Yeah. 100%. It's a movie that did as much damage to Star Wars as maybe. I think maybe not the holiday special, because that you couldn't visually look at. You can look at Rise of Skywalker, but I'd say as bad as Attack of the Clones. Like it did a lot of damage.
Rise of Skywalker would have been fine if it was just sort of like a Disney Plus Rey story about what was going on in between, and then we get to Episode 9 for real. Right. But it's like, when you look at what's the importance of the moment, what it should have been, and then what it is,
like the saga. I don't.
Yeah, no, this is ridiculous. This is just the most middling of the saga. All of a sudden, Calling Chaos says Star Wars TV shows have literally been a mix for me every time, and like that's the problem with how the world has gone. Some of it's Lucasfilm's fault. Some of it just ain't. But it's like we're supposed to have movies. And we're supposed to be going like, these movies are the things that we scrutinize, and these TV shows are the things that we consume and just have a good time with. These are supposed to be the appetizer, not the actual meal. But with the way that it's gone, it's all we have.
Here's what's weird though. Like again, you're always competing in a space. And I feel like okay, when you're in the movie, it's the movie space. So there, Star Wars competes with summer blockbusters. It's competing with, say, like a Barbie. It's competing with a Mission Impossible. It's competing with a Deadpool and Wolverine. It's competing with Indiana Jones and the Dial of Death. That's what the space, it's of its peers. That's the kind of movie a Star Wars movie would be competing with. Okay, and it's not competing with Everywhere, Everything, All at Once or Black Swan. Those aren't the kinds of movies a Star Wars movie is competing with. A Star Wars TV show is competing for subscriber dollars. Subscriber dollars are generally built amongst an audience of late 20s, mid 40s, late 40s, I mean 50s. It's the Game of Thrones people. It's the Fallout crowd. You know, it's so, but these are saying, no, we're doing all ages. The Marvel and DC stuff's trying to be like, no, see, we're making all ages. And I'm like, there's no, that the only studio that's doing that right now to some extent is Paramount with the Knuckles series and some of the Star Trek stuff. And the Star Trek stuff looks way better than this. Like it's objectively, it's not even, I don't even like Discovery, but visually stunning compared to this. So I don't understand if you're comparing yourself to Doctor Who would be who I'm competing with, like, to an extent, and that's on Disney Plus, but it's the BBC, but right now it's on Disney Plus. So, and even then there are times where I'm like, Doctor Who, I mean, sometimes you're like, this looks better than some of the Star Wars stuff. It's certainly Kenobi. Like, I don't understand what the problem is, other than again, I get back to the hubris where they're like, no, see, we're Star Wars, we set the tone. Yeah. Right? No, we're making the base. Or we're Marvel, we're setting the base. The Secret Invasion and the Moon Knight, we're setting the base for superhero stuff. And it's like, no, man, you're competing with the people who want more Daredevil. And to be honest with you, like, props to whoever re-edited Echo for trying to get some of that in that show, because it worked out for their numbers. You know what I mean? Like, that show should have done nothing. Like, no, and it's not a great show.
It really did nothing. It really did nothing, and they're making it seem like it did.
But you can say at least it had some of the violence they promised. Like, it is there, you know? Like, it's just you want it to operate out of Stranger Things. And if you're saying you're operating as Stranger, which is the most cross-generational thing on cable, is Stranger Things. Those are hour to hour and a half, sometimes 2 hour long episodes, Jason. Some episodes literally are movies.
Okay, like, but you have to look at.
You can't do that with Star Wars because it's shot in a fictional universe.
Well, yeah, the problem that they have in that thing as well, though, is if Star Wars was being sold to Netflix, like the shows were being sold and divvied out to like Netflix, I think we could get it. I don't think that we can get it necessarily all the time on the Disney Plus platform because of its size. And then now that where we're at now, we're definitely never going to get it, because we're never getting on one of the, I don't think we're ever going to get one of these $180 million shows, Star Wars shows on Disney Plus ever again. I don't think so. I'm saying after
that's where I've constantly said I just feel like you're better off just going into animation, and I don't mean like the Bad Batch animation. I mean like
I think they're better off just leasing the shows to a Netflix.
Well,
I think that's how they'd be better off. You know what I mean, though?
We've been saying that since day one. You know, like especially when Andor came out, they should just lease it and put it on Netflix. You know, the audience will eat that up. Watch it be the highest #1 stream thing on Netflix. You know,
well, like, exposure. Could you imagine is important.
Disney Plus trying to make Arcane? No.
Yeah.
Couldn't happen.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Brandon says, Jason, I hope that David Harewood plays Darth Plagueis. And I mean, I would like that too. I think he could do it. I think he would be a really good Sith Lord. We don't know what he's playing or who he's playing in this at this point. We have no idea. It's a secret. It's a mystery. But I'm going to just guess that you don't get David Harewood to play oh, hi, my name is Mitchell. I'm just a trader. Do you need some space coffee? I don't think he's going to be doing that. So I think it
sounds exactly like the kind of alien they'd put in a Star Wars show.
Yeah, that's what the sound designers come up with today for voices. So oh, geez, you know.
I thought the best alien in the show was the one in the very first scene that looked like a Jawa mixed with Darth Vader. Thought that was a good design. That was like the best I've seen out of this.
I think that was a repurposed one from 9, maybe, like a repurposed critter. Yeah. Yeah. So, and then, anyways, so I hope so too, Brandon. And then Crawling Chaos says Star Wars and consistency. Ha, it never was, which is true. But Lucas changed things constantly. How are the people that follow ever going to find a baseline? And yeah, no, you can see though, like when you watch, like go watch the prequels and then go put on anything from the Disney era, and you're like, whoa, the prequel acting, what? It is jarring now. Before it was fine when there was just the 6 films. The prequel acting was fine for me. Now today I'm a little bit like, this is weird. This is weird to watch.
It was jarring for me at the time, especially when I saw the Matrix sequels, and I compared the Matrix sequels to the Matrix, the first movie. You know, this is at 2003. This is literally 20 years ago. I'm like, there's just some different thing happening here. I guess. And the way I said, it's like looking at Star Wars: A New Hope, and like, you know, Attack of the Clones. It's like this kind of acting, jumping. You know, the same, but it's the same actors. This is so weird. What is this? And I'm like, oh, it was written and directed a different way, Rob. That's the difference. It's just a different feel, different tone, different anything.
From like a checkbox perspective, Acolyte operates on the same way. You have like Saul and Kir like really elevating, bringing high level performances to a show with some really Pollyannish mediocre acting across the board. And it's like, and it works in that tone of movie, but it has a very different, like, it's like a very different, like levity in terms of like it being sort of Cold War-ish with the Death Star and like what they're up against. And you're kind of like, it's very more like, it's more apparent. And this one right here, what they're up against is sort of like a secret magician. And so the stuff, I don't know if it's the correct approach in that way, or if those checkboxes they work as well in this sort of like story. In this sort of story, I think it would be better.
Because it's this weird hybrid thing, Jason. We've said this before. Do you want it to be American Graffiti or Happy Days? But you can't be somewhere in between. It's
that's good analogy. Good analogy.
It's
Rob.
either a TV show with a set of characters. Like if this were a TV show that was going to go 4 or 5 seasons, the first season is just me getting to know these Jedi characters, and it ends on like them being murdered off or something, or the events depicted, the tragedy. So we got a whole season to really get to know these characters and find out there's like a bad, you know, hunting down Jedi or something like that. The second season is where it starts to kick in. The third season is where you got to know these characters over a period of time. They're just trying to rush you through, you know, like imagine Buffy season 1 and 2 done in like 8 episodes. I mean, it would fall apart. You need to have these group of characters with the premise that go through the cycle. That's why, to me, Mando works better in the first and second season, when it felt like Mando's on a mission, he does something, but then there's a story thing that sort of happens every couple episodes, but we're getting to learn how this character deals with these situations and the kind of people he meets. When they turned it into now this season is all about the restoration of Mandalore, that's like a movie, or like the series as a whole could be that in terms of when you get past 5 seasons. But when you're like,
that was the pitch.
Right. When you're saying, no, we're going to do a season where it's about that, you're like, that's not a show or a movie. It's this thing in between. And I've never seen it. I was thinking about this on my long drives. Have we ever seen this work in my lifetime? Because Roots predates me. So I can't tell you what it was like to watch Roots, other than it felt from what it was described to me from
Kuta Kinte?
The show Roots. Yeah, but that felt like a cinematic moment on television is how it was described to me. For me, it was V. When V hits, it felt like a movie on TV. But nobody really liked the ending to V. Even as a kid, I remember my uncles complaining to no end. And then when the sequel comes out, V, the final battle or something, it felt like they could never
I loved it. I was like 4. I loved
like
it.
Spaceships and lizards and shit.
Freddy Krueger's like getting the chicks pregnant and stuff. They're having little lizard babies.
Melania
crazy.
Trump's in that fucking show. It's crazy, dude. So like, yeah. But I'm like, the only show that's managed to make me feel like it's a movie and still be a 24 episode TV show is Quantum Leap. I think Quantum Leap still holds up in that regard. I don't know how they managed to pull that off, making an NBC, and then it was expensive, making like a period piece that jumps around, you know, but they still kept that effect, but it was still a TV show. You can't do that. And like, they tried to do that reboot where they did the 8 episode season streaming and it falls apart. You need the 20 to have these characters go through the bits. I don't know, man. I don't know. So yeah, Happy Days or American Graffiti, but don't be whatever the fuck's in between, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Baymax says, do you think the Saul and Kir actors really show how bad a casting Amandla was for the lead, specifically since she's trying to pull off two characters? No, I don't actually. I don't really think she is bad. I disagree with that perspective on it. I think it comes a lot down to direction and consistency. I'm not sure if that's all on her. I feel like that might be on the directors, because you will see like different directors getting different things out of her. And like I felt that she acts really good when she's the good guy, and when she was bad, she was kind of ham-fisted as the villain. It was a little like too, so I didn't think it was very consistent in that way. But I don't know if you change the person out if you actually get anything better with it. I just right now I'm not feeling like she's the problem.
No,
it might be because she's hot though. It might be that,
I don't care for her performance, but I
Yeah.
do think, like anything else, you can get a different again, Sam Jackson, you got something different out of him. I'm likened most recently to a character who speaks in very little and uses their eyes a lot, would be who's the dweeb in Andor that lives with his mom?
Cereal?
Yeah.
Cereal boy?
And he's named after cereal. No one complained. She's named after Ocean.
cereal.
He's named after cereal, and he eats cereal. Like, but his performance is working. It doesn't mean he's a better actor than Amandla Stenberg. It means they got to perform. It's a director's job to get performances. I've constantly blamed Lucas for putting in Natalie Portman and getting nothing out of her, putting in Sam Jackson, getting nothing out of him. And yeah, Liam Neeson showed up, but it's difficult, like, and again, rewatching, Much Ado About Nothing, I just keep thinking of a Star Wars where there was no Qui-Gon. It was an older Obi-Wan, and Ewan McGregor, I mean, not you, Kenneth Branagh was that Obi-Wan, and I'm like, would it have been stilted? I mean, Kenneth Branagh would have to have directed that film, I think, to get the performance that maybe you'd want from a Kenneth Branagh. I don't think Lucas was going for any of that, like, so
Yeah.
it really is up to the director or showrunner in this case, like, to get those performances, period.
Rogues 113 says, why do people never talk about Amandla Stenberg acting? All anyone ever talks about is Saul and Kir. They did the same with the Ahsoka show. Well, that's what happens when the acting isn't really notable, or it is just like, huh? But those guys are doing very consistent good work. Obviously, they have great parts, though. That's also, sometimes Star Wars fans go, oh, they're a good actor. It's like, no, they have a good part. But I think in this scenario, they're good actors with good parts. So that's why they're shining through and overshadowing her. And she's she's younger, so it's like, she doesn't have like a lot of as much experience as they do. And I think that might
she's
be
doing
also
as much as Hayden did in Attack of the Clones, and I didn't care for his performance. So
Mhm.
I think he's better in Revenge of the Sith, But when you go from Life as a House to Attack of the Clones, it's jarring. Like, it's like, same dude, really? Like,
yeah.
okay.
Yeah, well, that's what happens when the directors just like read the line. Aria says, can't wait to see Dave Filoni or other directors not hire the choreographers for this show, because we need these quality lightsaber duels in Ahsoka. Jackie made Ahsoka look like a joke with two sabers. You're right. I mean, you're right. That's what I would want if money is not an issue. But they paid for that. This show, I think, when people are like, oh, what did they pay for? I think some of it is they paid for exactly that. And it's like, what do you want? On one hand, do you want Land of the Lost looking sets sometimes and these good fights, or do you want pretty good sets and
can't make cheap Star Wars, Jason?
But,
I was going over, like, I reread that script I wrote when I was 19. And there's like these long talking bits because I was gonna do an animatic for the whole thing, so I was trying to be conscious of like action sequences. So I'm like, I could put one in the beginning, and I can kind of do like a fight in the middle that is like an exposition fight, and then I can do one at the end. But in between, I need more talking because there's just no way I'm going to be able to get all that worked out. Like, and then I came up to a realization after the second draft. I'm like, don't make cheap Star Wars. You know what I mean? Like, there's no, you can't, could you do it? Andor isn't cheap. and there's plenty of talking. You can't make cheap Star Wars. You just can't. Like you make cheap Star Wars, you end up with the holiday special. You know, a thing that's so unwatchable. Jason put on the show, and go watch the holiday special, folks. When you just see me, I was like, "Are we really doing this?" Like, I had no clue we were really doing that.
We tried.
That is a legit response.
They fucking
from
took us down, though. The man took us down.
The man took us down.
Calling Chaos, it's funny how Jackie was quiet the beast despite only being a Padawan. She kicked ass. Yeah, I think that in some ways the character was probably created to show that Saul is a good teacher. That Saul's not just like an incompetent failure, because he fails Osha. Osha doesn't become a Jedi. It would have been great
to have a whole season with her, and she dies in the first episode or something. You know what I mean? Or last episode, however you work it. Or mid.
I hope that when we see what the last episodes are, we're like, of course they couldn't be there. Like, I'm hoping that it's worth it. You know,
I'm talking about in a world where they did real TV. You know, like 13 episodes of something. You know, not.
Yeah, and that's the thing about this show, is that if it had multiple seasons, that all these people dying in the first thing would really suck. But once again, I do not believe, even if they make it for cheaper, that they will make a second season of the show. I just don't think it's going to happen. I would probably bet more on a spin-off from something from it, as opposed to it just being a season 2.
I texted you this morning because you showed me that picture of the helmet. Kimmir's helmet, and I'm like, that's the most anime thing I've seen them do on the show, and I actually like the helmet design. You know, like I think it looks like something that would exist like in the First Republic. You know what I mean? Like it's like an ancient thing. It feels like an ancient thing that they're using ancient tools to fight these guys who've long since forgotten. They're like all highly technological, but this guy's using ancient shit, and so there's a cool thing there, to be certain. And it looks great shot from almost any angle, so you know it's disturbing. And I still think the best thing I've seen in this series was that weird out of focus shot where he just like floats down behind her. It's genuinely disturbing, you know, like in episode 4. Yeah, that last
Thrawn Kill nailed it. Chainsaw Man style helmet. Yeah. It definitely is. Excuse me. Yeah, well, I think we've done it. I think we've done it, Rob. Anything else you want to say before we go, Rob?
Sorry, I didn't watch all of Amandla Stenberg's movies, and all the movies that Saul was in, and all the movies that the green alien chick was in, and I didn't watch all the movies that.
If you ever do though, if you want to watch like a horror film, her movie she did Bodies. It's kind of fun because it's like watching all of Twitter just get murdered by a slasher in a movie. It's like literally what it is. It's pretty fun.
I'll write it down.
Yeah.
And go rewatch Rashomon, folks, if you want to see this.
Yeah, if you've never seen it, you should definitely watch it, because Star Wars is already, it was in The Last Jedi with Kylo Ren. Now it's in this, and it will likely show up again. You know what I mean? Like over and over and over again.
And if you're on a Kurosawa kick, go watch Yojimbo, because that's what Obi-Wan should have done, in my opinion. And if you just want to see a really good Kurosawa movie, go watch Stray Dog. You know, it was shot 5 years after the bomb, and it's an amazing look at what Japan actually looked like, because it's a low budget film. Super great. So yeah, something I wanted to say on this before we go. What are you guys' thoughts on Khamir being the first member of Knights of Ren, since his outfit looks like a Knight of Ren? Fans are saying you could hear Kylo's theme in episode 5. Well, here's one thing I would say to that is this helmet. So you know how you'll have like a World War II airplane, and then they draw the mouth on the side? Yeah.
Like on the fighter jets?
Plane. Yeah.
Okay, his helmet is literally that of a Kylo Ren helmet. The silhouette of the helmet was a Kylo Ren design I had for The Force Awakens. And then all of those designs have now been divvied up into other things, and some of them became the Knights of Ren. This one right here is that same shape of that blank helmet, but they've gone and they've animated it up a little bit and broken it up and stuff like that. But so from a design perspective, 100% it is cut from the same cloth as Kylo Ren, because it's like probably the same designer even, but it's definitely has the same lineage of that stuff. Maybe at some time they will show us that, or
it also has a bit
it.
of that droid design in Jabba's palace that likes to torture all the droids and stuff. He's got like some of that, and it's got
EV-99.
Yeah, it's got the same. Yeah, it's got a lot of the same Star Wars stuff. But I think you folks are like, again, you're Easter egg hunting to like figure out how this all ties together. I think you're going to be let down if you continue to go down that path. Nothing that they've done has operated at that kind of level. They're not really that into it that way. Like
I feel like the Knights of Ren is kind of like a gang, right. From what I understand. And this is like, I mean, how many gangs last for hundreds of years? So that's kind of
should have been called the Knights of Revan, given what Kylo looks like. But here we are. So like we could go down this, and we remember all the Revan people, and they think it's Revan because blah 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 blah, and it's gonna tie you like it was just. If they're not thinking that way, man. Like don't do it.
Well, they oftentimes will think that way, and they don't get the permission to think that way as well. That's like the other side of it. You know what I mean? Yeah, it goes. I mean,
Kenobi spoke to Rey, and like here we are. Palpatine didn't speak to her.
Yeah.
Here we are.
But that's because J.J. Abrams wanted it to happen that way, and they said, J.J., you could do whatever you want because your parents invest in our movies in the past, so we owe you. Right. I'm kidding, but yeah. Anyways, I hope everybody had a good time with the show. I am, at least now I know I'm going to finish the show. There was a last week was so bad for me. I was like, I almost didn't watch the episode last night. My son doesn't like the show. He's completely out. He even watched this one and just doesn't care. He's just like, so what? Too little, too late for that guy. My daughter is in it, but I think my daughter's the kind of person who, once she starts a show, she finishes it and then hates on it after if she doesn't like it. So that's
all over vegetables and then lets you know how badly they were cooked.
Yeah, and says this is horrible. And so yeah. So
I eat the crust first, so I don't have to have a crust on the sandwich. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I just get it over with.
But I'm glad Penny got me to watch it. Penny was like, let's get In-N-Out and watch it, and I was like, I can't argue with In-N-Out and Star Wars, even if it's crap Star Wars. But it was good. I had a good time.
A photo.
No, I didn't want to rub it in now that you only have like a 2-hour wait for your In-N-Out. I figured,
Yeah, I know. Well, if you get there
is
in
it
the
normal
morning,
now?
you're out by lunch. What?
No, is it normal now? Is it like?
Yeah, it's 15, 20 minutes. Yeah, they've settled in.
Has the other location opened up for you yet, or is that like down the road?
No, but it will. It probably it takes a while. Like probably within a year. They'll have that.
Yeah. Thrawn says, I want to hear Penny's thoughts. Yeah, Penny was almost going to do the show last night, but she didn't want to stand for a few minutes, and I was like, okay, so Penny might do a show with me about the whole show, where she says everything she thought about the whole thing, and I don't actually criticize the show to my kids because I don't want to ruin their childhood. There's all kinds of crap that if I watch as an adult back then, I would be like, this is Explorers, this is junk. Whereas as a kid, I loved the Explorers.
Batman '89 did not let me know how bad they thought it was compared to Adam West. Like they were just like, "This is not really Batman, Adam West."
That's such a weird take. It's a weird take.
Welcome to my childhood. So it's just like you learn to go. Well, here's why I like it. So then I have to defend. Well, in Batman '89, he wouldn't punch a bad guy with glasses. So in this movie, Joker puts on the glasses and Batman punches him anyway. And that's my kind of Batman.
Vigilante Batman. All right.
Yeah.
All right. We did it, guys. We'll see everybody soon. Definitely by next week with the next episode. And if anything cool happens before that, I'll jump back on and we'll deal with it. All right. Have a good week, everybody. Bye, Rob.